Hi, welcome back. I'm Linda, and today we are going to make a very easy pantry quick red sauce. So the first thing you need is lots of garlic and onions, but I don't have any onions in my freezer. I always have onions in my freezer. I'm entirely out. So now we are going to show you the way to cut up an onion. So the first thing I do, I washed it so that there's no dirt on my cutting board or my knife, and I'm cutting it from the North Pole to the South Pole. You see here we have a hairy end and a not hairy end. So we're going to cut off the not hairy end and then pull off any layers of onion that look gross, like that. So just get rid of that and put that right here in my bowl that will end up in the compost. So now I'm left with this nice onion and this blossom or this stem end. Well, that's going to hold the root end. The root end is going to hold all of these the layers of the onion together as I chop it. So what I'm going to do here, I like to do a fairly small cut, and I'm going to make these cuts, and I'm not going all the way through. I'm just coming up through. It's about 2/3 of the way through, and I have these all cut up. Then you go roughly to the one in the middle and you cut all the way through. And then we do what's called the leapfrog method. So I pull them apart and I put them on their opposite sides and then put them back together so that they look like they did before. And then we repeat, going back through and making the same cuts. Then you simply cut it like you're slicing the onion. And these last couple of pieces here, you're going to have to run your knife through because they're a little bigger, but you have perfectly diced onions. And I will remove those to this bowl to get them over to the stove. And because I'm going to do a double batch of pasta, I'm going to do the other half. Now that I have lots of onion ready to go, we'll come on over to the stove. Since the sauce is going to come together really quickly, the first thing I'm going to do is get my water for the pasta on to boil. Sometimes we need a little help. And add lots and lots of salt. Needs to taste like the ocean is what the Italians say. I don't know if that's true. I just add quite a bit of regular table salt. Now, we'll get the sauce going. I have just a regular old enameled Dutch oven. This is cast iron. See how ugly that is? Doesn't matter. It gets stained. That just shows that you use it. Some regular olive oil. I'm going to put in about a tablespoon of that. And then we're going to get our onions in to cook. And they live in here. Give them just a sprinkle of salt. It helps to break down the membranes of the onions and helps them to soften up a little quicker. So this will take 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll just let them hang out here. So it's been about 1.5 minutes, and you can see that the olive oil is sizzling and my onions are starting to cook a little bit. You can see how they're changing color just a little bit. I wish you could smell it. Cooking onions is just the best. And I still have that high heat under my water waiting for it to come to a boil. So we'll wait another couple of minutes here to get these onions translucent before we put the rest of the sauce together. So these onions are still simmering away on, sauteing away on medium heat. I wanted to talk a little bit about this pan. You can see I've got two enameled cast iron Dutch ovens going on the stove right now. I use these all the time. There's a very expensive French brand that makes these. That's not what I use. These, I believe, were the blue one came from Sam's Club. The teal one came in a set from Costco. They're very inexpensive relative to what you might have heard these things cost. And they wear great, and if I ruin them, I don't have to miss a mortgage payment in order to replace them. So you can see these onions, they're starting to become translucent. They're getting just a little bit of color. I'm going to put them here in an even layer. I'm going to let them sit for about 90 seconds. I'm not going to stir them. I'm just going to let them sit and hope that I get just a touch of brown. The Maillard reaction is full of flavor, and there's nothing better, in my opinion, than browned onions. So we're just going to let that sit for about 80 more seconds until we assemble the rest of the sauce. So I can tell by the smell that we're just starting to get the beginnings of that Maillard reaction. See those little bits of brown? We're not going to let it go any further, but I just like to get a little bit of that. So now, again, I'm doing a double batch because I almost always do a double batch. I'm adding 2 great big cans of crushed tomatoes. I am not brand specific. I will put whatever I find on sale. These even have a little bit of basil in them. And 1 and 2. I didn't feel like dealing with raw garlic today because it's just going to simmer for a while anyway. And so I'm taking a shortcut, and I have some garlic powder, Italian seasoning, crushed red pepper, and fennel seed. And the fennel seed is a neat spice. It's what makes Italian sausage taste like Italian sausage. So you put a little bit of that in, and it really increases the meatiness of your sauce. Even if it's a vegetarian sauce and there's no meat in it, it will taste like Italian sausage. I also have here some real Italian sausage that I always buy in bulk. I cook it and I freeze for days like today. So I've got some Italian sausage. Some people are very anti-canned mushrooms. I'm not. I think that they do a great job of bulking up a high-calorie dish with some vitamin D and makes it just feel like a more substantial sauce without adding any calories, and adding some umami from the naturally occurring glutamates in mushrooms. I also have the bane of my children's existence. This is kale that came from the veggie farm last year that I put in the freezer, just waiting for today to put into a red sauce. Ruin a red sauce, as one of them might say. This is red Russian kale, looks like. Doesn't really matter. So we are just going to turn this down to medium low and let this simmer away while we wait for the pasta to cook. So here's a little known secret about pasta. You don't actually have to wait for the pasta sauce or for the pasta water you don't actually have to wait for the pasta water to come to a boil before you add the pasta. The reason why the pasta manufacturers recommend that is so that it's harder to screw up. If you put the water in before, if you put the pasta in before the water comes to a boil, you have to just keep an eye on it because it will stick. So I always put the water on to boil while I get my sauce started, and then go ahead and throw the pasta in the water. And if it's not boiling, I just get to hang out with it a little longer. This package says that it's going to take 13 minutes for the pasta to cook al dente. It'll take a little bit longer than that because it's not boiling, was not boiling when I put the pasta in. And that's about the perfect amount of time for my pasta sauce here to hang out and hydrate those dried spices and come together. So we're just going to let the pasta cook, let the sauce simmer, and we'll check in with you again in about 14 minutes. So you can see the sauce is thickening up a little bit. That's okay because we're going to add a magic ingredient at the end that will loosen it up if it gets too thick. I wanted to talk a little bit about tomatoes. I used crushed tomatoes. I really like crushed tomatoes. You can use tomato sauce. You could use diced tomatoes. You could use whole tomatoes that you crush in your hands. That's how the old Italian nonas do it, from what I understand. I'm not Italian, so I wouldn't know about Italian grandmothers. But this is the point in the sauce that if you were adding some other kinds of vegetables, you would go ahead and add them now. So if you were adding zucchini, that's a delicious addition, diced zucchini. Or if you were adding baby spinach instead of the kale that I put in earlier, now would be the time to do it. So we're just going to let this continue to simmer for another, see the bubbles coming up? For another few minutes while the pasta finishes cooking, and then it will be time to eat. So I just tasted a noodle by spearing it with a fork so it could cool enough so that I could taste it, and they're perfectly al dente. So here's my magic ingredient. I have my 1 cup Pyrex measuring cup, and I'm going to dunk that right here and get pasta water. And now I'm going to drain the pasta, and then we'll come back and finish the sauce. So now this has been simmering for 15 or 16 minutes. And you can see that that kale is perfectly cooked. Everything is hot and bubbly. So now it's time to give it a taste. All of those spices have hydrated. I always find that a little bit of acid is a great touch. I am going to use just some balsamic because some people put sugar in their sauce. Frankly, everybody who manufactures sauce, the jarred sauces, are full of sugar. I like mine a little tangier, but balsamic vinegar is a little sweeter, and you can see that just that little bit really makes it look richer, like it's been simmering all day instead of 15 or 20 minutes. So now that I added the balsamic vinegar, I just add that reserved pasta water, only about 1/4 cup, in order to loosen the sauce and make it look and taste delicious. And the starches in the pasta water will help the sauce cling to the pasta. If you forget to do it, you can always pour a little into your prepared pasta as well. So then all we have to do is turn that off, and then we will ladle half of this sauce into the noodles. We'll save the other half. I will put it in quart deli containers, and it will be even better than the first batch. This recipe, since I doubled it, will sauce 2 pounds of pasta, and that is enough to feed 6 normal people. It feeds our family of 4, but I have 2 teenage boys who eat far more than is reasonable. This is my quick and easy red sauce, chock full of vegetables that you won't even notice because it's so delicious. And that's all there is to it. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe.